Hi, my name is Adrian Manzano, and I want to tell you about Bad Driver, my TV show. Before I get into that, I want to go into a little bit of a personal story. When I was 4 or 5 years old, living in New York in Queens, there was a knock on the door one day, and it was the FBI. And they came in and they had a little picture of my uncle, and they were looking for him. At the time, I couldn't really name him because I have a very large family, but it was a good thing because I didn't want to rat him out. If you rat out your uncle, you get whacked at Christmas time. But in all seriousness, it was actually a really hard time for my family. My uncle got extradited, and last year he passed away of COVID. So before he passed, I'd ask him like, "Hey, what happened in New York in the '80s?" But he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't really want to. It seemed like it was just still too painful in a way for him, despite being decades away. But I was able to get the story from my aunts and my mother as well to find out exactly what happened. Fast forward now a couple of decades, I'm now driving Uber in Miami. And when you drive Uber in Miami, you meet a lot of interesting people. You meet people from all over the world, party people. And there was one guy in particular by the name of Baller. And Baller was like an old school gangster type. He'd been around, and he just had these great stories about his time in jail, his time robbing other drug dealers, as well as knowing the rapper Pitbull. Before he was a rapper, he was also a drug dealer in Miami. So combining these stories and my experience driving Uber as well as the experience of my family, I decided to come up with this TV show called Bad Driver. So Bad Driver is a contemporary 1 hour comedy drama for like a Netflix or an online streamer. And it tells the story of Suji. Suji is a Korean American musician, hipster, stoner, kind of smoking her way through life, a little snarky Uber driver. She's got a secret. Her secret is that she is a part-time drug dealer. And her journey goes from hipster musician, but now incorporating a multi-level marketing approach to selling drugs, making her now a Miami kingpin. So the story starts with a teaser, and it's an action-packed teaser. Suji's on a speedboat. There's blood coming down her eyes. She looks around, bodies everywhere, money flying everywhere. Like, what's going on, right? And then she hears a phone call. She's looking around, and she finds the phone. It's in one of the bodies. She looks at the phone. She sees a Jamaican guy, and the Jamaican guy asks her, "Hey, who the fuck is this? Who are you?" Which causes her to pause and think, who am I? What have I become? That's the end of the teaser. A little more action, but we'll stop it there. Now, flashback 1 month earlier, Act 1, Suji is with her boyfriend. They're musicians in Miami. They're playing some Latin jazz and they're cooking it. And then after the gig, we see them smoking weed, and it is revealed that Javier, her boyfriend, is getting recruited by a pop band in LA, La La Land, called Maria Juana. And so this puts some strain on the relationship, whether Suji's going to go with him, whether she's even invited, and obviously what's going to happen there. So when Suji comes home after the gig, she arrives and we see a bit of her home life. Her grandfather who raised her, Yeye, is on the floor. He'd fallen and he can't get up. Turns out his health isn't too well, so he's got medical issues, money is tight. He had been working off the books for all these years, which is very common with immigrant families, and as a result doesn't have Social Security, doesn't have a safety net. So money is tight. So the next day, Suji is on getting a passenger for a friend. She's picking up a British girl from East Hackney by the name of Rashika. And when Rashika gets in the car, they converse. Very quickly, Rashika has a question she needs to ask her. "Do you know where I can get some cocaine?" And Suji's like, "Are you a cop?" Of course she's not a cop. And that's when we soon learn that Suji has turned her car into an a la carte menu for drugs, where she presses one button, cocaine comes out, and she presses another button, and then weed comes out, ecstasy, K. She's got it all. And that's how she keeps her 5-star rating. Throughout the episode, we hang out with Suji as she goes about picking up a new ounce of coke from a new supplier because she needs to start buying in bulk. See, what happens is Suji now has a new creative idea of recruiting other Uber drivers. She now has a new recruit by the name of Vincent. And Vincent is a family man, but this is now the beginning of her multi-level marketing approach to selling drugs in Miami by recruiting other Uber drivers. The midpoint of the episode now is when her boyfriend Javier finds out about her schemes and what she's been doing. And he doesn't take it too lightly. So he gives her an ultimatum. He's like, look, I'm not going to let you mess this up for me. She's got a really good chance with this band. I need you to stop doing this. And of course, Suji says, keeps moving the goalpost. She's like, I just need to get one more last score and I'll be done. I'll stop. And of course, she brings up the fact that he himself is selling out his own musical integrity to be with this band. Something that's really important to her, musical integrity. This puts some more strain on their relationship, obviously. We also meet Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, yes, that Andrew Yang, the former presidential candidate. But in this story, he's running for mayor. And of course, he has a very interesting proposition and ideas, which is the legalization of all drugs, thereby ending the war on drugs. This is a story arc that will be completed later on in the seasons, or possibly future seasons as well, about the never-ending war on drugs and the criminal justice system. So by the end of the episode, Suji's recruit Vincent gets arrested. And unfortunately, this is the cliffhanger for the pilot, and we don't know what's going to happen to poor Vincent. And then we briefly meet Suji's lawyer, better called Paula Rodriguez, and she becomes Suji's consigliere throughout the season. So throughout season 1, each week we watch how Suji gets more and more seduced into this life of opulence and crazy hijinks, for everything from droning in cocaine from Cuba, bribing the Cuban government, to infiltrating the campaign of Andrew Yang and thereby influencing the war on drugs. As she keeps moving the goalposts from, post to post, she gets sort of this Shakespearean ambition inside of her to see how far she can get. And of course, the MLM approach to selling drugs, the multi-level recruitment that she's doing with the other Uber drivers, quickly explodes, and she becomes a Miami kingpin, or should I say queenpin, in Miami. So yeah, the show, I wanted to the themes I want to comment on would be like the gig economy and how exploitive it can be, the American dream and how quickly that can become a nightmare for immigrant families, as well as reforming the criminal justice system with the legalization of drugs. This is something we've seen with marijuana and other states decriminalizing harder drugs. This is something I think that's going to be in the conversation in the next 10, 20 years. So I think this series is something that will be sort of on the forefront of that conversation. I think it's a very timely moment to discuss these themes. Comps would be something like Narcos, Breaking Bad, Weeds. Weeds is very similar. Miami Vice, Snowfall, and Atlanta. Obviously, this is a familiar story in a way, but with a very sort of unlikely protagonist. It's something new, something exciting, but at the same time, kind of nostalgic and refreshing, but at the same time, taking the drugs sort of criminal kind of storyline, rags to riches, but doing it from a new perspective with a very unique and unlikely protagonist. So I thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you.